Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. If you're new to the podcast, check out my interview with Mike Michalowicz. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. On the Profit Answer Man, we learn money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo-jumbo using a simple system. Your accountant is busy documenting your transactions and creating a rearview mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this, and it's not your fault. We aren't taught money in school, and accountants aren't taught how to be profitable. The Profit First system created by Mike Michalowicz works, and he certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. Let's face it, without cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, or pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more, so you can focus on the parts of the business you love and receive the rewards for your labor and investment into your business. The stronger you are as a business owner, the more jobs you create, the better we are as a country. Small business owners are the backbone of America, and for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. This episode of the Profit Answer Man podcast is brought to you by SMBpodcastnetwork.com. The network is a collection of podcasts and shows from around the internet which focus on bringing you interviews with amazing guests who share actionable advice, ideas, and information for small and medium-sized business owners and entrepreneurs. Visit www.smbpodcastnetwork.com to find more great shows and easily subscribe to be notified of new episodes. It's a great way to discover quality content. If you've discovered us via the network, then I hope you enjoy today's show and will consider subscribing directly so you never miss our episodes. Big news. We realize that we are not able to help every business and that many smaller ones can't justify our fees. And quite frankly, they're right. But they still need help. And that's why we are creating the Profit First Experience, a course that includes different levels of support and an upcoming community to focus on helping you to be more profitable. If you're interested in learning more, please use the link in the show notes to sign up to be notified when it launches and to secure the pre-launch special pricing. There is one major step that many business owners miss in scaling their company through the 7 figures and beyond. It's getting out of the way and letting go of everything not in your zone of genius. We all struggle with this, including our guest, Richard Shaull, who after 2 of his businesses nearly killed him, made it his mission to ensure other entrepreneurs didn't go through the same struggles alone. To do this, he co-founded Unleash CEO, which helps visionary entrepreneurs scale with time freedom by recruiting and training a self-managing leadership team. Their proven process is guaranteed to free up 30 hours per week for the CEO to focus on growth, more time with your family, or better yet, both. Richard's vision is to build a global tribe of 10,000 Unleash CEOs and help them achieve their big impact vision. Who doesn't want another 30 hours per week? Let's meet Richard and figure out how this is done. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Richard Shaull. It's great to have you join us today.
What a pleasure, Rocky. It's so fun to be here. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
As am I. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, so I'm father of a legendary family, have three amazing daughters, and a beautiful wife. We've been married for just under a decade now. And it's just the joy and privilege of my life to be on this journey called life with such amazing girls. I am also the co-founder of a company called Unleashed. We really specialize in supporting scale for founder CEO-led companies by matching the founder CEO with a second in command who can execute their vision. We've just found over and over that entrepreneurs typically can take a company to a certain place, and then they get stuck and they need that second in command who thinks infrastructure, systems, people development, hiring talent, and can actually help the business kind of reach its full potential. And as a result, it frees the entrepreneur to go back to doing what initially caused growth in the first place, building key relationships, making big sales, coming up with new products and services. Meanwhile, that second in command is running the day-to-day very efficiently and profitably.
And I think that's something a lot of business owners struggle with is two parts. One, finding somebody to do that. And second, letting go so that somebody else can do it. And more often than not, when I talk to these people, I'm like, the problem's in the mirror. What have you found?
You're spot on. I remember, Rocky, the day that I literally almost quit being an entrepreneur, quit being a CEO. And I literally walked into my house, escaped into my office, and curled up in a fetal position in the corner and cried out to God for help. And I was running two companies at the time, was playing chief everything officer, as I like to say, in both companies, wearing all the hats, spinning all the plates, had a team who was not empowered. I was the answer to everybody's problems. I thought I knew everything. And I just wasn't a good leader, to be honest. And where I had taken the company was essentially, we built it to, this amazing kind of fast growing entrepreneurial venture flying by the seat of our pants. But once we got there, suddenly we were net negative. All of a sudden we were bleeding money left and right. We were on the verge of getting sued. We had key employees who quit. We had investors who were literally threatening to pull funding. We had, damages done by a storm that our insurance company was saying they wouldn't pay for. I mean, it was an absolute mess. And so I literally thought I was going to quit. I was like, I'm done. I'm going to, file bankruptcy and quit. And that was the moment where I had to look in the mirror and truly face the fact that what got me here won't get me there. And the way that I've been leading as an entrepreneur is not sustainable and is not going to work to take these companies to their full potential at the scale that we've gotten to.
And that sounds like every entrepreneur's story, right? The little things are different, but it's the basic same story. You build something, you get smacked around, you get some scale, and then everything starts to fall apart. And I'm a systems guy. So for me, what I look at is if things aren't perfect in the small, when you get to big, you then have major cracks that are not easy to fix. And I find most of the people who start companies, they've got great ideas, but they aren't necessarily systems people. And so that's not what they love doing. And we all do what we love, and we ignore the parts that we don't love. So what happened that caused the turnaround?
Well, for me, one of the big ahas, right? I'm thankful for some mentors in my life at that time who helped me realize this. But one of the big ahas was what got me here won't get me there. As I mentioned, that my leadership style was fly by the seat of my pants, entrepreneur, tell everybody what to do, chief everything officer. And that was a real wake up call to realize that, what got me here won't get me there. I had to change how I was leading and step into the role of become less of a founder and more of a CEO, and still be a founder CEO, but lean into what it looked like to not be just a crazy hair on fire entrepreneur, but a leader of people. And then I realized that I had a huge gap when it came to my second in command, that I was missing the yin to my yang, and that there were all of these skill sets that I just quite frankly wasn't good at. financial management, people management, systems, resource allocation, process documentation, clear communication and delegation, project management. These were not skill sets for me. And the things that actually grew the company in the beginning that I was good at were the things I didn't even have time to do anymore because I was doing all the things that I didn't love and wasn't great at. And so that was just a wake-up call for me, thanks to some mentors in my life. I'm deeply thankful that that aha happened to me. And now, after having helped hundreds of entrepreneurs make that same aha and realize, man, maybe I don't have to be good at everything. Maybe I'm just one side of a coin. Maybe I'm missing my operations counterpart, the yin to my yang. EOS would say the integrator to my visionary. We just say it's the second in command that every founder CEO needs. And that realization obviously impacted, a lot of what we do as a company today and the mission that we're on to help entrepreneurs actually scale to their company's full potential without them being the bottleneck.
So when you look at a business owner like this, and honestly, I think if we're all truthful, many of us are in the same situation. How do you find that person that you can trust who can come into your operation, or maybe you have to bring them up from your organization to be able to build out the systems and the processes and make sure that everything is running smoothly?
It's a great question. And finding them is part of the equation. But I always tell owners that the first step is not to find. We actually talk about all the time. We have this scaling support method that we use with clients. It's really a 4-step process to help them empower that second in command who can execute their vision. But the first step before find is actually to define. This is the step that gets skipped so often, and it's very difficult for people to do this objectively on their own. This is, again, where oftentimes you'll need a mentor, you'll need a coach, you'll need somebody external to help you truthfully and rigorously assess what you really need in this second in command. Define it, nail it to the wall. I see owners all the time who are like, maybe I need a COO, maybe I need an executive assistant, maybe I need a VA, maybe I need this, maybe I need that. You're not objective, right? And so what you need is somebody who can come alongside of you who actually can help you define what you need. And there's 3 dimensions of defining that you need to be thinking through, right? The first dimension is, and most people don't think about this one, is personality, right? It's chemistry. It's actually looking at who are you uniquely as an entrepreneur and what does the other half to your yin yang dynamic look like? Some personality traits are complementary, meaning you want this person to be different than you. But just like the yin yang symbol, they're opposing forces that have the same color at the core, the opposite color at the core. This is where you have the personality dynamic, and then you have your identity dynamic. So personality is the first one, identity is the second one. Do you share the same core values? What are those core values? Have you actually documented them, and are they something that's a nice, pretty statement on the wall, or do they actually reflect the true identity of your organization? Because that is a game changer in assessing and defining who the right second in command is. So we have personality, identity, and then competency. You need to get really, really clear about what are the competencies that you actually need from a second in command that's going to truly free up your time and help your company get to its goals. So that's the first step that I would say before find is you must define.
Question, do you use any particular personality tests?
We do. And what I always tell people is there's so many good ones. One of our favorites is Kolbe. We love Kolbe because it gives a fairly good assessment of the personality component. It won't help you as much on the identity or competency component, but the personality component, I think it's one of the best out there for assessing the personality traits that most relate to work dynamics between people.
And I'm familiar with that one. And I think that's a big thing. Too often, I think we pick people like us, when in reality, the best combination is people not like us. And that's what I found in my one business in real estate. We were opposites. But when we could find common ground, there was gold. And so each of us would pull each other away from mistakes, so to speak, and the things that we were blind to. And I think it's something people need to think about is you don't want someone who's in alignment with you or thinks the same way as you. You need someone who thinks differently so that you kind of balance each other out, because none of us see it all on our own. And so that makes for a good fit. So what's step 2?
Yeah. And the last comment I'll make on define, it ties into find, which is step 2. Find is step 2. But I think that once you've defined what you need, you become like a laser. Your whole inner being begins to put out radar looking for what you actually have clarified that you need. The reason most of the time people fail at finding the second in command is they have not even truly defined who they need. They've took some template job description and thrown some fancy title on it like COO or general manager or president, and they have no idea what their company actually needs. And because of that comes a lot of uncertainty at every step of the process. So defining is interesting. One of the things we do with clients is we do assess the in-house talent they already have, right? Sometimes you can elevate internally. Now, it's oftentimes slower. So you have to sort of understand what is your timeline to get your time freed up. But it can be a great option for a lot of companies to elevate within, so long as the person is actually a fit for the profile we've defined, right? So if there isn't someone internally, then we have to find them. We have to go find them. And within the find phase, there's 2 things that you need to think about. So the first one is you need to leverage the only competitive advantage you have as an entrepreneurial company in finding a great second in command, which is your growth opportunity. You do not have the benefits package, pay grade, or prestige that a larger company or some big corporate, echelon can offer. What do you have? You have a fantastic growth opportunity. You need to become incredibly good at selling and marketing that. This starts with your vision. Where are you headed? It also starts with some practical things like understanding profit sharing and what somebody could actually benefit if they have the ability to come in and help you execute their vision and build it, right? So in the find phase, we've created a unique, way, a unique entrepreneurial method of recruiting we call opportunity recruiting, where we help entrepreneurs leverage their vision and their growth opportunity to actually pull second in command talent out of the woodwork that would never respond to a job ad, that would probably ignore the 50 headhunters that hit them up on LinkedIn, every month, right? All of those, most of the type of talent we're looking for, they're not looking for a job, and they're not even necessarily looking for just a little bit more compensation. Those are the worst people, by the way, because if somebody comes to your company for a little more compensation, why will they leave?
A little more
compensation somewhere else, right? So you do not want that crowd, and that's what headhunters will draw out 9 out of 10 times, okay? And they actually thrive off of that industry because they have a whole database of people who just love to job hop and get bonuses, right? Signing bonuses. That's not who you want. The way I like to think about it is, one of my favorite psychological models is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And in that, Maslow says that the top 2 human needs, when people have had their, they've had their basic needs met, which the type of second in command you're looking for does. They have their basic needs met. They have their aesthetic needs met. They're probably pretty well taken care of and they can do what they want. Why would they come to your company? Well, it's for the top 3 layers. It's for belonging. They want to be a part of a culture and a team that they really believe in and feel connected to. It's for self-actualization, to become the highest and best version of themselves within your context. And it's for transcendence. It's to leave a legacy and make an impact. So as you're opportunity recruiting, you must think about how to market and sell those things, because that's what's going to actually attract the type of second in command talent that you're looking for.
So one of the things I've heard Gino Wickman say is visionaries are about 4% of the population. Integrators are 1% of the population. So I look at that and go, how hard is it to find these people?
I will I will respectfully disagree with the amazing Gino Wickman. And I do that with fear and trembling because he's a genius and I have the highest respect for him. I think that you have to sort of define the terms. So he is 100% correct in what they're seeing in the market, okay, which is that there's tons of entrepreneurs and there's one integrator for every 4 visionaries. There's this huge gap. His data is 100% correct. I totally agree. The challenge is that candidly, a large percentage of people who have integrator potential, meaning they have the competencies, have no environment in which to develop it. They have no environment in which to present themselves. Here's the funny thing. Anybody can start a business. That's why there's 4% of the population. Anybody can start a business. Very, very few people can position themselves to actually run a business and scale it, right? Which is how you develop integrator potential. So this is actually something unique that our company has done in that we've actually built a unique training and accelerating process for people who have the integrator or second in command makeup. Oftentimes they're serving in high level leadership or management roles in corporate. And we're actually vetting them and training them on what leadership of an entrepreneurial company looks like and turning them who have the makeup of that integrator archetype, but haven't had the environment to actually lead an entrepreneurial company as that integrator role. We're sort of filling that void and developing that talent. And we've been stunned how when we place those people who have the right personality, have the right competencies, and share the right identity stuff with the visionary, how even people who have never, quote unquote, played a president role in an entrepreneurial company that might have 100 people, but they've actually led a department of 100 people within a corporate company, the skill set 100% transfers with a little bit of training.
So they're good leaders, and that's the transfer part. And I guess 100%. They come out of a culture that is systematized. In a sense, you're not going to get to billions of dollars without processes and systems and things working. It's just
100%. So they've actually been there. That's the thing people don't understand. One of the things that a leader must have is to have gone where they need to lead people, right? They need to have gone there beforehand. So these leaders, if they've built it or they've led and managed, let's say 100-person organization within a larger organization, they've actually been there. They know what it looks like. They know what it looks like to win at that level. In some cases, they know what it looks like to win at the next level, a couple hundred employees, a couple thousand employees, right? And so that skill set is translatable as long as it's synced up and synergized with the entrepreneur as well. We're not like a private equity firm where we want to go kick the founder CEO out because they have a part to play. They have a part to play in this equation. But the second in command is a necessary element as well.
Very much so. So what's step 3?
Step 3 is onboard. And if you've ever read the book, The First 90 Days, you know that onboarding is the key to success or failure for all leadership or management positions. Unfortunately, when someone actually finds a second in command, it gets bungled more often than not. And we find within 6 to 12 months, oftentimes that person will quit or get fired, even if they were a good fit, because of the way onboarding was handled.
So I'm guessing the onboarding was, hey, here's the keys to the front door. Go figure it out.
100%. No systems, very little training, unrealistic expectations, unclear communication channels. What you end up with is 2 very strong personalities that are stepping on each other's toes in a dance and finally end up fist fighting, right? It's an absolute shame because I've seen so many of actually what could have been great founder, CEO, and second in command pairings crash and burn because there was no clear process, coaching, and accountability for how to synergize them together, build trust and equity in the relationship, and actually set up the proper channels for them to succeed and be on the same page.
So how do you do that?
It's remarkably simple. Just because something's simple doesn't mean it's easy. And just because something is common sense doesn't mean that it's common practice, right? So again, anybody can read the book The First 90 Days, right? The most important elements, there's a lot of little things that make this succeed or fail, but the most important element is having an incredibly clear war plan for who is doing what within the first 30 days and the first 90 days to get that person on board, right? So there's 3 dimensions to this. There's what does the second in command need to come in and take ownership of within the first 30 days, right? What do they need to be doing and focused on to get them ramped up and up to speed as soon as possible? Second thing is, what does the founder CEO need to be doing? As you said, many of them, I'm not calling you lazy. I'm just saying you got a lot on your plate. As you said, we'll just kind of dump, not delegate or train. So what do they need to be doing to properly train and hand off to that person? And this is unique to each company, which is why in our process, we help actually build this war plan, this day-to-day delegation plan, as we call it. It's custom for every company, right? But what things actually need to shift from this CEO's plate to the second in command's plate, and when, and what needs to happen to make that possible. And then the third thing is the team. In order for this person to lead the team, relationship and equity needs to be built between them and the team. So what's the clear strategic way for them to have the right appropriate meeting cadences with the right appropriate stakeholders and employees in the company, build relationship and equity with them, and actually from them get an understanding, a true deep understanding of what's working down on the front lines of the business and what's not working, so that they can actually build a plan to fix it and scale it. And so within the first 30 days, we often find with clients, we can build a really clear plan that gives the CEO confidence that they can delegate away 30 hours a week minimum to this second in command within their first 90 days. Like the plan is built within the first 30 days, which gives enormous confidence to both parties on what needs to be done to make that possible and to make sure that everybody's respected in the process.
I know in Traction, they talk a lot about holding meetings. Are your meeting structures similar to what's in Traction or different?
A lot. We would heartily recommend Traction to any business owner. There are absolutely good frameworks within there, and many of which we use. We're a company that runs on EOS ourselves. What I would say is specifically to the second in command onboarding, it's a little different because you're not talking about just kind of running the business in sort of a cyclical system. We're talking about what do we actually need to do to get this person up to speed and get the CEO freed up to go focus on growth and the future. So there's a very specific linear time-contained process of meetings and cadences that are different than what's outlined in EOS that need to happen to make sure that that's achieved.
Interesting. So we've got them onboarded now. What's step 4?
Step 4 is support. And this is the part, again, that gets missed so often is you've got them on board. What do you do now to actually continue to work together effectively to scale? There's a healthy balance here, which is if you onboarded them correctly, your relationship should be healthy if you follow what we talk about. But just because the relationship is healthy doesn't mean that it's high performing. It doesn't mean that your company actually scales. That takes a very intentional synergizing of both skill sets. And let me explain what I mean. Scale is very simple. Everybody wants to say we help scale companies, but nobody even knows what the term scale means. Nobody defines the term. Here's what scaling is. Scaling, very simply, is growing top line revenue without a corresponding increase in cost, which does what? Allows you, the more you scale up revenue, the more your margins actually continue to grow. Your margins actually grow or maintain level even as top line grows. That's actually what scaling is. A lot of people, when they say scaling, they're just talking about top line revenue growth. And I know I'm talking to the profit first guy, so I know you know what I'm talking about. But the only way that that's possible within an entrepreneurial company, in my experience, is if both those levers are actively being pulled, meaning someone is actively focused on how are we going to grow revenue, not now, in the future. And typically that's the founder CEO, new products, new partnerships, new promotions. And so we need them actively pulling that lever and going into the future to figure out how we're going to do that. But then you need the second in command pulling the other lever, which is how do we reduce cost, increase efficiency, maximize employee productivity, and defend our margins so that as revenue scales up, margins stay consistent or improve, right? So it takes a very intentional relationship to actually achieve that. See a lot of companies with great CEOs and second in commands, some of whom scale revenue, but not margin. Some of whom scale margin, but not revenue. If you can do both is when scaling actually happens. And so really my recommendation to anyone listening to this, and of course we do help clients with this, is having somebody who's well-versed, a mentor, a coach, a board of advisors, someone, a peer group who has effectively scaled a company with both of those relationships functional, right? Who understands the unique dynamics of how they need to work together to create that outcome. Because again, it's a custom mentorship process and it's based on your unique business model to figure out how to do that effectively.
So one of the things we have found is if you look at the average company, they don't do one thing, they do a few different things. And if you look at the few different things that they do, you will find that certain ones are highly profitable and certain ones just aren't. And if you don't look, like the simple way to do what you're talking about is to figure out where is the majority of the profit in our company coming from and eliminate the things that aren't driving, in other words, the products or the services that aren't driving that, or adjust prices accordingly to make that happen. And then focus your time and energy where the market is giving you the best returns and move your whole company in that way. And I'll tell you, for a lot of business owners, I've sat down and I've had this conversation. Hey, service A is doing X. Service Y is crushing it. I know you started this company on service A, but you got to let it go because it's barely, it's giving you an okay living. But if you take that right turn, you will explode and do what you talked about. Top line revenue flies. Your margins go through the, I can even see the margins clear as day. I'm like, your margins over here are nothing like your margins over there. And just that bit of knowledge. And then of course, as you grow, you have to appropriately do it and make sure that what I like to do is let's begin with the end in mind. Let's sit down and look what your financials look like with the company that you've built. And let's work backwards to say, is it even doable? Because sometimes we'll sit down and we'll run the math and be like, yeah, this is silly. This isn't worth pursuing because the numbers show it isn't.
So good.
Is there anything we should have talked about but didn't get a chance to?
Well, I think the last thing that I would say is it's my belief that entrepreneurs who are free from day-to-day management will build a better and brighter future for our country. I think that almost every marked improvement in the human experience in the last 2,000 years has happened because of an entrepreneurial revolution of people who solved problems, innovated, and created. One of the greatest tragedies I think I see in business is entrepreneurs stuck doing day-to-day management that they don't love and aren't great at. And as a result, are not serving their highest and best purpose to our society, which is to innovate and create and build new things. I think it's an absolute tragedy. And I think we will be better as a human race and as people if entrepreneurs actually focus on what they are great at and they empower other people who are strong where they are weak. And I just go back to my own story, right? I go back to that moment where I questioned whether I was even a CEO or an entrepreneur. And the truth was I was, but I had a misunderstanding of my role as chief everything officer. And, I needed that second in command who can execute my vision. And the other thing I would say is I think a lot of entrepreneurs they feel responsible. They feel so responsible for their culture and their people, and they don't want to let them down and they don't want to harm them. And so because of that, they hesitate to bring anyone else in, thinking that, well, nobody can do it as good as me, or nobody will care as much as me. And my friend, I just want to humbly tell you, I love you. You're wrong. If you have a great vision, you have a great purpose, you have great values, there are great leaders out there who can execute your vision and who will actually build a better workplace for your employees, a more clear, consistent culture, more systemized, more empowering for the people around you than you will as an entrepreneur. And it is your solemn duty as the owner to put all the right people in the right seats. You have to look in the mirror and assess, are you the right person to lead and manage the day-to-day of your company and team? And if the answer is no, then it is your duty to do something about that.
I'm 100% with you. I mean, the reality is, if we're going to get out of the economic messes we're in today, it is small business innovating and driving the future. That's what's always done it in the past. That is what will do it in the future. And that means we're counting on you guys and gals to make it happen. If people would like to learn more about you, the company, and the services you offer, what's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, thanks, Rocky. You can look us up at unleashed.ceo. There's no .com, just unleashed.ceo. You can also find us. We have a podcast called Becoming Unleashed, if you'd like to kind of follow our content, learn a little bit more about what we do as well. And Rocky, you'll actually be on that podcast in the not too distant future, which will be fun. They'll get to cross-pollinate a little bit.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You heard Richard. Simple isn't easy, and most people don't do simple. The reality is business can be simple if you take the time to do simple. Just look at McDonald's. It can be run by anyone, and they can put out the same product all over the world. Sure, there's some variations, but you get the point. They built systems and processes, and let's face it, most visionary leaders hate doing that. So find the people who can. Don't forget the finances are an important part, as we talked about. Figure out where the pools of profit are in your company, and then pivot to where the money is.
If you want a done-for-you service, you can hire us as your chief profitability officers. You have your own area of expertise, and maybe you want to spend more of your time doing what you love. We only work with a handful of clients, so they all get our full attention. We work with business owners who have or are growing to $500,000 to $5 million in revenue. You can use the scheduling link in the show notes to get on our calendar for a good fit conversation to see if we're the right people to support you and how we can help you.
Hey, it's Rocky. Don't forget to check out my other podcast, Richer Soul, where we talk about life beyond money and how to live that ultimate life and become a better leader in your company. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.